I'm using a 2-part black casting resin. You measure this out in equal volumes. And they tell you not to mix less than 3 ounces. And the reason being, these two are mixed, it's an exothermic reaction, and you need the heat of that mass of 3 ounces to get this to cure properly. The other part of this is that when this pours into that, you have 60 seconds. And actually 50 seconds is probably closer to it. If I mix 3 fluid ounces, I don't have time to fill the 4 cavities on the mold. What they're really telling you about mixing 3 ounces is that your project should contain 3 ounces. My mold does, but each cavity of the mold does not contain enough material to really catalyze itself. There's more than one way to skin a cat on this thing, and it needs heat to cure. I'm preheating my mold to 120 degrees, so I've broken this down into 2 different batches. This is about 1.5 fluid ounces. I pour the thin one into the thick one because it pours faster. From that point in time, I got 60 seconds. I stir this one a bit. You're not going to get all the thick stuff off the outside of this cup, so you decant it into another container. The material in here is pretty well mixed. Stir it a little bit more, and then pour it into 2 cavities of the mold. Go to the next batch, do the same thing. Doing it this way gives me 2 minutes instead of 60 seconds. I then put it back into the hot box. I leave it sit there for about an hour. I made 2 mistakes here. I should not scrape out that cup because I'm bringing in extra black material from the side of the cup that hasn't been mixed on the first stirring. And then I forgot to stir it the second time after decanting into the 3rd cup. Later on, when I demold these parts, we'll see that some of the material did not set up because of the poor mixing. These things happen, especially when you're shooting a video. You get distracted. One thing that's really key for being able to pour into the small openings on a mold are these little pour spouts that I put on these cups. And I have a video showing you how to do that. These are really handy. I have partially slit these so I can spread this, reach in with the side cutters, cut the top of those casting sprues off. Now it's a pretty easy process to pull these apart, and these come straight out of the mold. These 2 were the first ones I poured, and I forgot to stir that cup the second time. There was some of that black thick material that didn't get properly mixed. The other side, I did stir it the second time, and they came out perfect. When you get through casting these, you'll have these little sprues sticking up out of here. Most of the time you can just snap those off, if I can get hold of it. Then I'll go in here with the Dremel tool and clean up the inside of this sprue. With a product that only gives you 50 or 60 seconds to mix and pour it, it's really not suited to doing these type of castings. A problem with silicone molds, the more you use them, the rougher the texture becomes. They start to lose the sheen or the smoothness on the surface of the silicone, and that also will attract bubbles. I had a casting sprue and a vent sprue on this. The resin was going down through the center and filling this bottom cavity and then being vented off of one side. That worked very well. What you're seeing here is a bunch of entrained bubbles that was still in the material from mixing. And you don't have time to pour this into the mold and then put it in a pressure pot. If I was able to put this in a pressure pot and apply 50 pounds pressure, all of these would have disappeared. This material does not give you that type of time. We have to deal with what we have, and I went in and I filled all of these little holes with epoxy sculpt. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to rub that with a Sharpie. This resin is referred to as jet black, and the color goes throughout the material, but when you sand and grind on it, you'll get the scratches and that'll give it a gray appearance. So going over this with the Sharpie, and now I'll take isopropyl alcohol, put it on a paper towel, and this is 70% alcohol. I don't want to remove the ink, I just want to blend it in with the color of the plastic. And of course I am removing some of it, but this also melts it into the scratches, makes everything look more even. You may choose to wear gloves when you're doing this. Now the appearance of that is pretty even.